I want a divorce." He said it while the engine was still running. Sitting in the driver's seat of the brand new Audi RS7 I had just bought him, paid in full with the inheritance I got when my father passed. Not a thank you. Not even a look. Just those 4 words. I remember the heat from the hood, the smell of leather, his hand still resting on the steering wheel like he already owned it. And I remember smiling. Because I knew weeks before this moment that he would leave me. The second I told him about the inheritance, I saw it in his eyes. He didn't see me anymore. He saw a number, a shortcut, a cash out. So I let it play out. I let him pick the car. I let him think I was naive, that I was still the sweet, forgiving wife who never questioned where he went at night. I even wrapped the keys in a bow, watched him grin like a little boy on Christmas morning. And when he said, "I want a divorce," I blinked once, then laughed. Because he had no idea what he'd really just driven off with. That car wasn't a gift, it was bait. And he took it. Now all I had to do was close the trap. The day I got the call about my dad, I was halfway through making dinner, chicken in the oven, rice boiling. My phone rang, and I saw the number. My cousin. I answered, and all I heard was silence. Then, "Sandra, I'm sorry. He's gone." I dropped the phone. Literally. It clattered to the floor, the screen still lit up, her voice still coming through, muffled. My dad had been sick for years, but it still hit like a freight train. Derek came into the kitchen. "What happened?" I couldn't speak. I just shook my head. He picked up the phone, spoke calmly to my cousin, then hung up and wrapped his arms around me, held me there while I shook. In that moment, I thought, this is what love looks like. I was wrong. The funeral was quiet, intimate. Derek stood next to me the whole time, hand on my back. Supportive, solid. People whispered, "You're lucky to have him." That night, back home, he poured us wine, the expensive bottle we'd been saving. "We should do something nice with the money," he said out of nowhere. I blinked. "What money?" "The inheritance," he said, casual as hell. "You know, for you. Something special." I hadn't even opened the lawyer's envelope yet, but apparently he had already done the math. A few days later, the check cleared. $340,000. All mine. That's when it started. The little comments, "Your car's really on its last legs. We could use something nice. You deserve to drive something better." And then, one day, I saw this car today that made me think of you. Sporty, sleek, mature, but powerful. He showed me a photo of the Audi RS7. I nodded, noncommittal. "You like it?" he asked. I shrugged. "Sure." He kissed my forehead like I was a child who'd said the right answer. And I knew. Because I'd already seen the messages. 3 days earlier, while he was in the shower, I'd checked his phone. I never snoop. But something had been off. There they were. Texts from a woman named Shayla. Not saved under a fake name, he didn't even bother. "Did you tell her yet?" she'd written. His reply, "Not yet. Let me lock in the car first." Let me lock in the car first. That sentence hit harder than my father's death. That's when I realized this wasn't a betrayal. This was strategy. He was waiting. Playing nice until he got what he wanted. And I was the target, the woman who'd just buried her father. I stared at the texts until my hands went numb. Then I put the phone back on the nightstand and crawled into bed beside him, like nothing had happened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled, because now I had clarity. He thought I was weak, that I was still the girl he married 10 years ago, the one who stayed home while he worked, who smoothed things over when he lost his temper, who believed the little lies. But that girl? She died with my father. The woman standing in her place was done playing dumb. So when he brought up the car again the next morning, I said, "Let's do it. Let's buy it." His eyes lit up like a kid at Disneyland. "Seriously?" "Yeah," I said. "You've been so good to me through everything. You deserve something that makes you happy." That part, at least, was true. He did deserve something. Something that would blow up in his face. I went with him to the dealership, watched him run his hands along the hood like it was made of gold. I told the salesperson I'd handle the paperwork separately. Had the car titled under a holding company I'd created a year earlier for consulting work. I paid in full, inheritance money, all clean. He never asked questions, just took the keys with a grin and kissed me on the cheek. 3 days later, he came home late, said we needed to talk. He stood in the kitchen with his hands in his pockets, acting nervous, like this was hard for him. "Sandra, I think it's time we separated." I blinked slowly. "Why?" "We've grown apart. Things haven't been the same. I need space. I need to be honest with myself." Honest. That word almost made me laugh out loud. "You'll keep the house," he said. "I'll take the car. I'll help with whatever paperwork you need." So casual, like he was returning a library book. I nodded. "Okay." He looked surprised. "You're not upset?" "I'm just tired," I said. "Do what you need to do." He kissed my cheek again and left. I stood there, staring at the door. Then I walked to my laptop, opened a folder labeled Insurance, and smiled. He thought he took the prize. But all he'd driven off with was evidence. The night he left, I didn't sleep. Not because I was heartbroken, but because I was running scenarios in my mind, calculating the next steps. I'd never been the woman who played games, never been the one with secrets. But the moment I read that text, "Let me lock in the car first," something inside me shifted. He wasn't just cheating, he was trading me in for a newer model, a newer life, and he thought I wouldn't notice. But he had no idea what I already knew, because that wasn't the first message I'd seen. I'd been collecting them for weeks. Little things, comments that didn't sit right, quiet exits at strange hours, a sudden obsession with keeping his phone locked. So I started watching, quietly. I synced his phone to an old iPad we never used, something he'd set up himself years ago and forgotten. Every message, every call, every photo, it all synced right into my lap. I didn't just catch one conversation. I caught dozens, with her, with friends, even with a divorce attorney. He'd been planning this for over a month, mapping it out like a heist. So I mapped out my own. The first thing I did was call a lawyer, not the one we used for our joint taxes or mortgage. No, I found someone who specialized in asset protection and infidelity cases. I explained everything. She didn't blink. "Do you have documentation?" "Plenty," I said. "And the car? It's in a holding company under my name." She nodded. Smart. I met with her 3 times in the 2 weeks before he left. We drafted everything, timelines, financials, exit strategies. I even moved some funds into a protected account he couldn't access. The car was the jewel in the trap. A $130,000 test of loyalty. And he failed. But that wasn't all. I hired a private investigator. Quiet, discreet. He followed Derek for 10 days and handed me a file with photos, timestamps, and locations. Every dinner, every hotel, every lie. I didn't need all that proof for court. I needed it for me. Because when you've been lied to that smoothly, you start to question your own memory, your own instincts. And I needed to remind myself I wasn't crazy. I was right. The night after Derek served the papers, I sat at the dining table, flipped through the file, and poured myself a glass of wine. Every smile he gave her, every kiss on the neck, every smug little photo, they didn't crush me. They cleared me of guilt, of doubt, of fear. And in that moment, I stopped being the woman who was left. I became the woman who let him go. Now here's the thing. You're probably thinking, this is when she starts crying. This is where she falls apart. But no, this is where I start rebuilding. Because I wasn't just hurt, I was ready. I'd already transferred the car's ownership into a layered LLC, fully legal, completely traceable only to me. He had no clue. Thought it was his. Bragged about it to Shayla. I even saw a text. "Babe, you'll look so hot in the passenger seat." Sure she will. Right up until the repo guys come for it. And that was just the beginning. They always think we won't fight back. That we're too emotional, too passive, too grateful for the scraps they leave us. But the truth is, women like me, we don't snap. We calculate. So if you've ever been where I was, if you've ever watched someone you love play you like a game piece, if you've ever kept quiet while your whole world fell apart, then you know, this was only the beginning. And if you want to see how this revenge unfolds, subscribe now. Because what happens next, even I couldn't have predicted it. After Derek left, I didn't wallow. I worked. Not out of spite, out of purpose, out of clarity. I spent years building a life around him. Now I was building one without him. And this time, I wasn't doing it blind. The day after he walked out, I changed every password, logged into every joint account, and noted every transaction. I saw where the money had been going: hotel charges, boutique clothing stores, dinners for two at places we could never afford when we were together. I froze the accounts within the hour. Then I called the lawyer. "Let's move forward," I said. We filed the response papers that afternoon, with documentation, receipts, messages, photos, everything Derek thought he had hidden. We filed for full asset protection, spousal misconduct, and requested investigation into financial dishonesty. She smiled as she filed. "He's going to regret underestimating you." "Good," I said. "That's the goal." I wasn't out for revenge in the dramatic sense. I wasn't trying to hurt him, just to hurt him. I wanted him exposed, accountable, cornered. The car was the first domino. I waited a full week after he moved in with Shayla before triggering the repo order. Middle of the day, in front of her complex. He was in the shower, according to the PI. She was in the parking lot, screaming as two men calmly backed the RS7 onto a flatbed. When Derek called me, furious, sputtering, demanding answers, I answered on the third ring. "What happened to my car?" he shouted. "It's not yours," I said flatly. "You bought it for me." "No, I bought it. I just let you borrow it." "You psycho." I hung up. I didn't need to argue. The paperwork would speak louder than anything I could scream. And that's when the rest started to unravel. Turns out, Derek had put his job at risk by using work hours to take Shayla on his little getaways. My lawyer sent a quiet envelope to HR with time-stamped evidence. Not revenge, just information. 3 weeks later, he was let go due to performance concerns. Shayla stuck around for another month, then disappeared. I don't know if she left him or he got tired of her when reality hit, but she vanished as fast as she'd come. And Derek? He tried to spin it, to friends, to family. She turned cold after her dad died. She was never really the same. But the people who mattered, they knew. Because I didn't hide. I told the truth. Calmly. Quietly. To friends, neighbors, even to his mother who cried when I showed her the proof. She hugged me like I was the one who'd been widowed. "You didn't deserve this," she said. "No," I replied, "but I was ready for it." That's the part no one expected. I didn't crumble. I documented. I didn't fight him. I outplayed him. There's something deeply satisfying about watching someone fall into a trap they helped build. And while he was scrambling to save his reputation, I was laying bricks. I launched my own business, consulting for women in situations just like mine. Divorce, infidelity, financial recovery. Not therapy, strategy. The demand? Massive. Turns out there are thousands of women walking around with stories like mine and no plan. So I gave them one. Word got around. Quiet referrals, emails, DMs women who didn't know where to start. Women who felt powerless. I taught them how to watch, how to listen, how to prepare. You don't need to be louder, I told them. You need to be smarter. Some cried, some laughed. All of them left stronger. And every time I saw one of them rise, I felt a little taller myself. One of them even asked, "How did you stay so calm through it all?" I told her the truth. I wasn't calm. I was focused. Big difference. The people around Derek moved on. Slowly, they stopped defending him, stopped replying to his little social media jabs. He tried everything: vague quotes, half-truths, even subtle threats. I didn't respond to a single one, because I didn't need to explain myself anymore. I was already winning. He lost his car, his job, his relationship, his image. Me? I gained peace, respect, and the one thing he never expected me to find again: power. Not because I screamed the loudest, but because I stopped giving him a stage. Courtrooms aren't like what you see on TV. There's no dramatic music, no yelling, just silence, papers shuffling, the low hum of lives being dismantled under fluorescent lights. I sat on one side of the room, legs crossed, back straight. Derek sat across from me, looking tired, deflated. His expensive blazer didn't hide the stress. His tie was crooked. He hadn't shaved. He wouldn't look at me. His lawyer spoke first, something about irreconcilable differences, how Derek was willing to be fair, and how we'd agreed to keep things civil. That last part almost made me laugh. Then my lawyer stood, calm, concise. She outlined the facts, not opinions, facts. The holding company that legally owned the car, the financial records that showed Derek's spending, thousands in marital funds on hotel rooms, and luxury dinners for someone who wasn't his wife. The time-stamped surveillance photos, the texts. She didn't even raise her voice. She didn't need to. Then it was my turn. The judge asked if I had anything to say. I looked at Derek. He finally met my eyes. And I said, "This wasn't a marriage. It was a setup. I just got to the finish line before he did." His jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. I turned to the judge. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for resolution." And then I sat back down. No tears, no outbursts, just facts. Truth. Undeniable. The ruling was swift. I kept the house, my accounts, the business I'd built. Derek was ordered to cover my legal fees due to documented misconduct. The judge called his behavior predatory. That word hung in the air like smoke. He didn't say a word as we left the courtroom, just followed his lawyer out, shoulders hunched. I walked past him in the hallway. He didn't stop me. But I did pause, just long enough to say, "You could have had something real, but you went looking for something easy." Then I walked out, straight through the doors, into the light. Outside, my sister was waiting with coffee. She didn't ask how it went. She just smiled and handed me the cup. "You look taller," she said. "I feel it," I replied. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "He thought he knew you." "I let him," I said. "That was the fun part." And it was. Because every time he thought he was in control, I was 3 steps ahead. This wasn't just a divorce. It was an audit of character, of loyalty, of truth. And he failed. People who used to say, "Sandra, you're too soft," started using new words. Sharp, smart, strategic. Some of them even asked for advice. "Teach me how you did it," one woman said. Simple. I stopped explaining myself. I stopped hoping he'd change. I stopped accepting the bare minimum just because I didn't want to be alone. And most importantly, I stopped waiting for permission to fight back. Court was never about money for me. It was about the moment he realized he lost everything. And I didn't raise my voice once. You know what's funny? After the court ruling, I thought I'd feel this big, explosive satisfaction. Some dramatic, movie-worthy wave of victory. But that's not what it felt like. It felt quiet. Like the moment after a storm when everything's still. The kind of stillness that only comes after you've burned something down and realized you never needed it in the first place. People kept asking me, "What are you going to do now?" Like I needed to fill the space with something loud, something flashy. But I didn't. I just went home. To my house, my name on the deed, my peace, my coffee maker, my playlists. No more checking texts. No more walking on eggshells. No more fake apologies over burnt toast and lipstick on receipts. Just me. And that was enough. For a while, I didn't talk about what happened. Not publicly, anyway. I let the truth settle where it needed to. Word got around fast enough. Derek's version of the story never held up under the weight of facts. And besides, he wasn't interesting anymore. He'd lost his shine. You can only play the victim for so long when the receipts keep showing your signature. But me? I was just getting started. I took the consulting work full time. Women from all over were reaching out. Some with stories just like mine. Others with worse. Some were still in the middle of it, whispering through phone calls in locked bathrooms. I didn't tell them what to do. I asked questions. I helped them see the patterns. Their patterns. His patterns. What safety looks like. What danger looks like in disguise. I didn't promise revenge. I promised clarity. I helped them write their own endings. And somewhere along the way, I healed. Not all at once. Not with some perfect morning where the pain just vanished. Number it came in pieces. Like the first time I laughed and didn't feel guilty. Like the day I deleted the photos without shaking. Like the night I lit a candle, poured a glass of wine, and sat in total silence. No tension, no waiting, for the door to slam. Just stillness. That's when I knew I had something more than a victory. I had freedom. And with that freedom, I made a choice. To never shrink again. To never explain away someone else's cruelty as a phase. To never, ever ignore my own instincts. One afternoon, about 6 months after the divorce, I ran into him. Grocery store, aisle 6. He looked thinner, not in a healthy way. Like life had pressed on him. His hair was messy, his eyes tired. He looked surprised when he saw me. I wasn't. He gave this little smile like we were old friends. "Sandra," he said, "you look good." I looked him in the eye. "Thanks, I am." He nodded slowly. "I've been meaning to reach out." I tilted my head. "Why?" He blinked, didn't have an answer. I guess I wanted to say I'm sorry for how it ended." I smiled. "Me too." He relaxed a little. Thought that meant I'd softened. Then I added, "I'm sorry you thought I wouldn't see it coming." He didn't know what to say to that. And I didn't wait around. I turned and walked away. No anger, no final monologue. Because that's the power they never expect. Not the yelling, not the breakdown. The indifference. The realization that they don't get access anymore, not to your life, your mind, or your energy. I used to think love meant loyalty, no matter what. Now I know love includes yourself, or it's not love at all. And for anyone listening who's ever felt used, discarded, underestimated, listen closely. You don't need to fight like them. You don't need to stoop or scream or lose who you are to win. You just need to remember who you are. That's enough. That's always been enough.